So hi, my name's Lou, welcome to my channel. In this week's video I'm going to be showing you how I made this Christmas wreath, and it's all made out of crepe paper. I've been making crepe paper flowers and foliage for the last few years since somebody bought me a book for Christmas. And it was this book. It's absolutely beautiful and it's got all sorts of different projects in for making paper flowers. And I've made quite a few of the projects in this book, but I wanted to do something of my own, so I decided I was going to design my own this year. So I have been on, did a Google image search and found lots of different types of winter foliage and worked out what the leaf shapes were like and how to construct them. And so I have created this, and I'm going to show you how to make the 4 different types of foliage that I have put into this wreath. So what you'll need some crepe paper, and I've got 4 different colours here. The crepe paper that I've got is it's called either Italian crepe paper or florist's crepe paper, and it's a little bit stiffer than the stuff that you normally find in craft shops. But if that's what you've got, then go with it, because it works in the same way, but this kind of holds its structure a little better. I've got lots of these. What are these? These are like berries. You sell these in craft shops for doing this with, and basically it's a bit of wire with 2 blobs on the end, and I bought a pack that had some red and green in. Mine came from Hobbycraft, and then I wanted white rather than green, so I have painted the green ones white with some acrylic paint. And then I've got some wire, and I bought some florist's wire and decided to go with the straight stuff rather than the stuff that's on the reel, but either would work. I've also used some florist's tape. I've used this in 3 different colours: a dark green, a light green and a white. And I've got a few tools. I've got a hot glue gun, and I went through about half a dozen of the sticks when I made this project, so you might need quite a few of those. And I've got some scissors, just decent paper scissors. And lastly, I have a pair of these are wire snips, and they're just used for cutting wire to size. So I've got this twiggy wreath base that I'm going to be using to put all of my foliage on, and I wanted something that looked quite natural because you're probably going to be able to see little bits of it. And then I've got the foliage that I've made out of crepe paper. So I've got some holly with little berries on, I've got some mistletoe, I've done lots of pine branches, and I've got a few sprigs of eucalyptus as well. I've also got some baubles, which I'm going to add a little bit of shine and a little bit of bling. And I've got some pine cones, and I just bought these, but you could collect them from the woods or your garden if you have such a thing. And these have already been dabbed a little bit with some white paint. This is a kind of bluey green colour, and I'm going to start by cutting a chunk of this and then using it to make some pine branches. See, I didn't measure it out, I just guessed how much I'd need. And now I want to cut it into strips going this way. So I'm going to start cutting this way. And just keep cutting. And the width of these is just however wide I want my pine needles to be, with about 1 centimetre extra. And now for each of these I'm going to stretch it, because I don't need the crepe paper to be all that crepey for this. So I'm going to stretch it out, and that's going to give me a little bit more to work with. And now I want to make some little fronds that are going to be the pine needles. So I'm going to fold this in 4 so I can make lots at one time. And I'm just going to snip all the way along, just leaving about 0.5 centimetre in between each cut, and making sure I leave about 1 centimetre before the edge so I don't cut all the way through. So we'll just keep cutting until we get all the way to the end. And then we can open this out and take a look. and you get a nice fringe like this. And if there's any areas like here where it's a little bit big still, I'm just going to snip into that again. So for the next part, I'm going to take this wire and I'm going to wrap the fringe that I've cut around the wire. So I'm going to start with a little bit of glue on this end, and I've got a glue gun here, and I'm just going to put a tiny blob on there, just to start with. Put the wire in, fold it round, and be careful to hold the crepe paper and not the glue. And now we can take our glue and just run it a couple of centimetres at a time along the very edge. Hold our paper at 90 degrees to the wire, and then just start to twizzle the wire, twist it towards you and wrap around the wire. So let's do that again. So glue just for 4 or 5 centimetres there. Hold the wire and the paper at 45 degrees and then twist the wire towards you. And then I'm just holding it in place for a few seconds while the glue sets. There we go. I'm quite happy with that. So now I'm just going to take my scissors and snip off that end. And there we go. I've got one pine branch. So I'm going to make a couple of these now, and then I'll show you how I join them together to make a little pine branch of 3. So now I've got my 3 pine branches here, and the stem on this one's a little bit long, so I'm just going to give that a bit of a trim. I've got some wire cutters here. So that's it. And I'm going to start by wrapping the stems so I can wrap all 3 together. And I've got my florist's tape here. And the way this works is it's like a paper tape. It's a little bit like crepe paper itself in that it's stretchy. You can pull it out. When you pull it out, it goes slightly lighter in colour and it becomes a little bit tacky. And it sticks to itself. It's not very sticky, but it will stick to itself and it will stick to other bits of paper. So you start pulling it out and it kind of becomes a little bit tacky, and then with the warmth of your fingers it sticks to the paper and it sticks to itself. So I'm just wrapping it around the base of the pine branch there a few times until it starts to hold. It's not moving at all, and then I'll just angle it and start moving it down the stem a little way. Now at this point I want to add in the next of my branches, so let's place that one there, and again I'm going to wrap 2 or 3 times round both stems together there, and then start moving the tape further down the stem, and then finally I'll add in the 3rd one. So I'm just placing it so that the tape will cover the very end of there, just covering the join. So again, wrap it round 2 or 3 times, and then this time I'm pulling the tape as I go, and that's making it sticky, and I'm just wrapping it around all of these wire stems all together until I get to the bottom, and then I'll just break it off and wrap the ends, and you should find that they stick nicely together, but if you do get a little end sticking out, then you can use a little bit of the glue from the glue gun to stick it together. So now I've got a little pine branch and I can just give it a bit of shape by moving those fronds around like that. So I'm going to make quite a few of these ready to go into my wreath. The next stem I'm going to make is a eucalyptus like these, and they've got lots of little pairs of leaves on them, little round leaves. So I've made some templates and I've just drawn these up very roughly myself, and you'll see these are not very carefully drawn. So I used a bit of scrap card and made this like hot air balloon shape. I've created lots of these from the smallest to the biggest and just graduated them in size. So I made some small ones and then some slightly larger ones and just made them lots of different sizes. And when I create a branch of them, I'll have a few of the smaller ones at the top, and then they get slightly bigger and slightly bigger and slightly bigger until they get down to the very big ones at the bottom here. So I've made my eucalyptus with this pale bluey grey coloured crepe paper, and what I'm doing is taking each of my leaves and cutting them to size. So I cut a long strip and then cut that into squares, well, rectangles. So I can cut 2 leaves at once by placing them together like this, folding them in half, and then just using half of the template. And cutting them together means that the leaves will be symmetrical because we've cut them both sides together. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pairs of leaves for this stem, and again I'm going to be using a little bit of this florist's wire, and I'm going to start by placing a little bit of glue on one of the leaves and then wrapping that around the very top of the wire like that. And I'm holding it in position until the glue's set a little bit. And then do the same again with the same size leaf. And this time wrap it around the other side. There. So I've got the 2 leaves facing each other, looking like they're giving each other a little hug. And now I want to wrap the stem with florist's tape, just in the same way that I did with the pine branches. But I want something that matches a little better. So rather than the green, I've got a white tape here. Now I found this white tape doesn't stick as well. So I may have to use a little bit of glue in some places just to give it a little bit of a helping hand. But it does work in the same way. So you pull it, it makes it sticky, and then it sticks to itself. So I'm wrapping 2 or 3 times round this at the top and then starting to bring it down. There we go. And at this time I'm just going to tear it off here. So I'm going to put the next set of leaves on in exactly the same way as I did the first. So take a little leaf, add some glue, place it on the stem and wrap it round. Then take the next leaf, again add some glue and wrap it round in the opposite direction. I'm going to keep going until I've done all 7 leaves on this stem. What we need to do now is simply open out the leaves, and you can shape them a little bit So one of the benefits of this crepe paper is that you can pull it a little bit, just give it a little bit of shape, and you can move things around and they pretty much stay where you put them. So I'm going to form them into these little rounded cup shapes like this, and the last two. And there we go, there's our stem. And it's ready to add into our wreath. The next thing we're going to make for our wreath is some holly with some leaves and some berries and a little spray like this, and I'm going to show you how to make that now. For this I've got some dark green crepe paper, and I'm going to cut this into a strip like this. And again, I'm not measuring it, I'm just deciding how big I want to make it and roughly cutting it to size. Now for this I want to cut it into squares, and that each leaf, the length of the leaf will be the diagonal of the square. So we cut diagonally along the centre of the leaf like this, and then flip one side over. So now we've got the grain running in this direction and that direction. Bring you a bit closer so you can see. So again, I'm going to use a little bit of florist's wire for this. So what we're going to do is put a line of glue along the edge of this half of the leaf and glue the wire right down to the centre of the leaf. So again, I've got my hot glue. I'm going to zoom you in for this bit. So a line of glue, close to the edge there, and then I place that wire right onto that line of glue and just press it down. This piece here I want to glue on top of it, so it's going to cover that join. So I'm going to flip it over now and put the line of glue on that edge, flip it over and place it on top. Again, press it down. So this is what we've got. And you're thinking, that doesn't look like a leaf. It looks like a manta ray or something like that. But it will. Promise you it will. What I'm going to do is take my scissors and just cut little kind of scallop shapes out of the side. I'm not measuring it. Each leaf will be different, and that's good. So one side done. Let's turn it around, do the other side. And there we go, it's cut to size. Now to give it a bit of shape, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull on these little corners. I'm going to pull some up and some down. And then I can use the wire that I've put down the centre to give this a really kind of contorted shape. Like that. So I'm going to use my wire cutters just to get rid of the excess of that wire. Then I'm going to make a couple more of these and make them into a spray. So now I've made a few leaves and I'm going to join them together with some florist's tape like this. So for each leaf, I'm going to start the tape at the base of the leaf, wrap it round a few times, and then start pulling it some way down the stem. So I'm not going all the way, just about there. I'm going to bring in these other ones that I've wrapped and just start adding them in to the same stem. And the third one. And just going to keep wrapping that all the way down to the bottom. And for berries, I bought these. So I think I'm going to use 4 or 5 of these on each spray. And I can fold them in half like this and create a little bundle. I'm going to put them at slightly different heights just to make them look a little bit more natural. And again, I'm going to use the tape and wrap that around them. So now I've got a little bundle of berries all joined together, and decide where on the stem I want them. Do I want them a bit further down or a bit further up? I think that's not bad. And take my tape and join that on there. There we go. So that's all ready to go into the wreath. The next thing I'm going to make is mistletoe, and that looks like this. So for the mistletoe, I've got this sage green crepe paper, and I'm going to cut a very thin strip of it. So the width of my strip is going to be how wide the leaves are. And then I want to cut this to about how long I want my leaves to be. And again, I'm not measuring it, I'm just guessing. Well, it's an educated guess. And I'm not too worried about them all being the same length. There we go. So now what I want to do is to fold this in half like this, and then I want to taper it down to this end, so this end's quite narrow, and then it goes up to the width of the leaf here, and then I'm just going to round the top off. So I'm just going to cut one line like that. So now you can see this comes down to a narrower point here, and then I'm just going to round the end, and that's it. So I'm just going to go and do that with all of them. So I've got some of my florist's wire, and I'm just going to chop this into sections. So I want a couple that are a little bit longer, there, but the rest can be fairly short. So kind of, don't know, about 8 centimetres. Now for each leaf, I'm going to put a tiny bit of glue just on the end there. Take one of the pieces of wire and just fold it around the end. And then when the glue is dry, we can shape the leaf a little bit, and just run your finger in it like that. Just gives it a nice shape. And this one, I think I want to go that way. So I'm just rubbing my thumbnail in it, give it a nice little curve. Okay, so I have some more floral tape, and this one is a paler green. And I'm going to start with one of these with the longer stem on it. And I'm just going to wrap again around the base of the leaf, wrap 2 or 3 times, until it sticks to itself, and then start moving down the leaf, down the stem. So I'm going to go a few centimetres down, and then that's it for now. And then I want one of the leaves with the shorter stem. I'm going to do the same with that. So again, a few centimetres down, and then tear it off. Now, mistletoe generally has two leaves together like this, and then they come down the stem a little way, and then you get the berries at where the stem joins. So now I'm going to put in some berries. I'm going to take a couple of these, just fold them, and then they can go in there like that. So I might actually go for 3 berries there, so they've got 2 on each bit of wire. So I'm going to cut this one. So I can put 3 berries together there. And I'll just place them how I want them. Maybe a little further down. And then take my floral tape and wrap around all 3 stems, all the 2 stems and the berries together. And I'm going to keep wrapping. To there. So I've got 1 stem. So I'm going to do this again, and I'm going to join the second stem onto the first stem here. I'll just keep on joining on sprigs of mistletoe until I'm happy with it as a as a branch. So there we go. So now it's time to construct my wreath, and I'm simply pushing the ends of each sprig into the twiggy wreath base that I've got. And I'm starting with the pine branches because that's what I've got the most of and they cover the most ground. So I'm making them all go in the same direction and just making sure they're nice and evenly distributed. Next I'm adding the eucalyptus because that's the next thing that I've got a lot of, and want to make sure they're nice and evenly spaced too. Then I add the mistletoe and the holly. And after this I think it needs a little bit of something extra. So I've got some baubles and pine cones, and all I've done is I've wired them together using that floral wire in little groups of 3, and I just add them at intervals around the wreath too. I put a little loop of wire on the back, and then it's ready to go. It's ready to hang up on the door. So thanks very much for watching. If you do make one of these, I'd love to know. I'd love to see photos of it. And if I've inspired you to make something with crepe paper, then yeah, I'd love to see that too. If you like this video, then please like it. And if you want to see more videos like this, then please subscribe. I love to read all of your comments, and I will try and answer any questions you might have. So thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.